It's not just a rumour, it's real, it's here. It's the Panasonic GH5S. But what's new?
There's been plenty of coverage on the rumours blogs about the GH5S and some leaks, but it's here now, so let it gush out.
Physically, externally, not much has changed apart from a few splashes of red. Here, there's a red record button instead of a red dot, just in case you're a bit confused as to what a red dot means.
Never really had a problem finding a button before, but I guess the whole purpose of the new one is to make it more red.
And then a little red ring, don't know why, maybe to make the Canon people transitioning over to Panasonic feel a little bit more at home.
Now we've covered an introduction of the colour red, what's new inside?
Now internally, in terms of software, you get Vlog pre-installed rather than rather elaborate way of getting it for your GH5, which is to order it online, getting it sent from another country, getting a package which contains a tiny little piece of paper with a code on it, which could have been sent via email, but that would be too easy, wouldn't it? But it goes to show what the GH5S is all about. It's all about video.
I got given the GH5S to film a video before Christmas, and I used it to shoot some product shots indoors and on location at around sunset. The S is supposed to be a more video-orientated version of the GH5, but is the GH5S everything we expected?
I mean, don't get me wrong, the GH5 is a fantastic camera for video. It's the camera that I use to film all of my YouTube videos, but one thing it doesn't have is good low light capabilities, and that's where the GH5S comes in.
It's not just a pretty dash of red paint on black plastic with an S tagged on the end. The GH5S is supposedly better in low light. That's what we've all read about anyway.
As the rumours suggested, it has a lower resolution, higher sensitivity sensor, 10.2 megapixels, with a dual ISO 400 and 2500, just like the EVA-1. EVA-1, whatever.
Just in case you didn't know, it's this, a Super 35 cinema camera from Panasonic. Whereas that had a dual native ISO of 800 and 2500, the GH5S is at 400 and 2500 as standard, 800 5000 with Vlog L or hybrid log. Dual native ISO means there are two ISOs that are native, obviously, for optimum quality. Any other ISO means applying gain. The ISO range has been extended too.
It does go to crazy high ISOs, but that isn't the key point because at its maximum ISO, it does look as rough as a camel's backside after a severe bout of diarrhea.
At ISO 1600 the GH5S looks great, and at 3200 too, where the GH5 is starting to look noisy in the dark tones.
The files look much better at ISOs that would look slightly noisy with the GH5.
At ISO 6400 the GH5 is looking sketchy. It's still usable, the S. In terms of how much better the S is, you're looking at over a stop but not 2 stops of improvement. A solid performer for low light.
Which was quite apparent even when looking through the EVF of the GH5S, which now has 120 FPS refresh rate. But that day when I arrived on location I started shooting, immediately I noticed two things. Number one, it doesn't have that internal wobble of the GH5 that you get from the sensor trying to stabilise your shot, because it doesn't have stabilisation. Oh no, what a shame. It does have it in the menu. It says stabiliser, but it's greyed out, which kind of doesn't make sense.
I guess that has something to do with the new sensor, but it seems like an old menu, just rubbing it in your face.
And number two, it felt like it was holding onto those highlighted.
Whoa, hold up. Let's not make bold statements based on just how it feels like. In reality, there is no improvement in dynamic range. Something that the rumours were hoping for, although from what I shot, same aperture, same shutter speed, ISO, Vlog L, 4K or Live, it looks pretty similar. And the same goes for the video quality. In terms of rolling shutter, it's not as speculated that it would have improved rolling shutter. I don't see any worthy of note. Apparently, the T-Boy at CVP shot some test shots with the GH5S of a coffee machine, and then later with the GH5 when the coffee machine wasn't in use. He's a T-Boy after all. They might have been shot at 2 different times and not side by side, but you can still see that there's still rolling shutter and that the coffee machine is still broken. But look, every cloud has a silver lining, and a glittery lining here is that the footage still looks fabulous. It does have new frame rate options and in DCI also.
And while I was out there shooting on the beach, I was also shooting some 4K, 50p, 150M, all internal of course, DCI, which is the new thing with the GH5S, but not 422, it's 420.
This lack of an internal 422 4K 60p would be a big shame for some, but let's have a positive.
And another biggie, quite a huge one in fact, is the Full HD 240 FPS, which looks super slick.
The 240 FPS HD option is immense. It is cropped, however.
On the one hand, it's got incredible advancements that's useful for video shooters, but yet at the same time it would be nice if they kept the internal IS and perhaps improved the autofocusing system, because this is exactly the same as the GH5's autofocusing system, unfortunately, which means it's not going to be very good. Check this out. Or rather, don't check this out, because nothing's going to happen. Focus. Focus. Anyway, never mind, because the GH5S more than redeems itself with the incredibly beautiful footage it shoots. But one thing is, they have increased the price. Well, they're not going to give it to you for free, so perhaps this might not be your GH5 upgrade. But when you think about it, it's more of a baby EVA 1 in a tiny package.
For sure, it wouldn't make sense for Panasonic to make it have perks that the EVA 1 doesn't have. The GH5S is a GH5 with better low-light capabilities, DCI, and at 240 FPS. It'll make a great B or C camera in addition to, say, an EVA 1 because it is more similar. Oh, it's also got a timecode in-out too. It feels more like a dedicated video camera. It has the dual native ISO like the EVA 1, does 240 FPS like the EVA 1, albeit not in 2K, but perhaps not something for people who have the GH5 as their only camera. It's not a GH6, not a successor. It's a camera that will be sold side by side with the GH5, a complement to the lineup. It might not make people ditch their GH5 to fund one of these, but that's probably a good thing, given that it hasn't been around for long.